Hello and welcome to another episode of Game Theory, the #1 MMA DFS prep show in all of the land. I am your host M.O.N.K, aka the Monkmatician.
Haters don't touch.
And in this very episode, we're going to be breaking down all of the most pertinent stats from UFC Vegas 79 to help you build those GPP and cash lineups for DraftKings this week. We've got a banger of a card, a couple of really good fights, especially the main event between Mateusz, Gamrot, and Rafael Fiziev. We've got Bryce Mitchell against Dan Ige, Marina Rodriguez against Michelle Waterson-Gomez, Brian Battle. We've got Charles Jourdain, Dan Argueta, Jacob Malkoun, Cody Brundage, Muhammad Usman, Jake Collier, and the heavyweight banger of the century.
Okay.
And we have an OnlyFans fade as well. So please be sure to stick around for the whole video, and at the very end, we will show you M.O.N.K's picks and the most owned, no-nonsense M.O.N.K pick of the week for UFC Vegas 79. Let's get right into it.
Showtime. We're gonna go nuts in there.
Very quickly, here is what you will be seeing when we look at the slides here. On the top left, we have the dollar signs. That's going to be where you find the DraftKings salaries. We then have the UFC career KO, TKO numbers, the submission numbers, decision numbers, and the average fight time. Then we have the UFC record and exact record. Exact, as you can see, is 3 rounds bantamweight, so whatever shows up on the screen, that is the exact record for that fighter. The scatter point graph, as you can see, is divided into 12 sections, actually probably a few less than that. These are just the fighters' DraftKings numbers inside the distance compared to at distance and just thrown onto a graph, so that is what you are seeing there. And then on the far right, the fighters' measurables. So without further ado, let's get right into the fights.
Promise me 1,000,000 times that you will never do another rule.
First fight of the night, we've got Vidal in her second UFC fight, taking on UFC debutante Montserrat Rendon. Rendon, I have no stats for her. Her ceiling and floor are just the average for the division, and her last 5 strength of schedule is absolutely terrible. I think it's actually second worst on the entire card at 55.79. You want this to be around 65 to 70. Anything better is good. Anything less than that is subpar. Rendon 7,200 this week. She is 5-0 professionally, and all 5 of her fights have gone all 15 minutes. Meanwhile, Vidal had a 3-minute fight with Ramona Pascal at catchweight after Pascal missed weight. She was 8,500 this week and scored almost 110 points. Her overall pacing, all of her pacing numbers are pretty ridiculous. You kind of got to throw them out. She is $500 more than her previous salary, and she did put up almost a 13 value in that first fight. So we do love to see that. She does have the knockdown power. Strength of schedule not good, but still 7 points better than Montserrat Rendon. I like Vidal here, 9K. I think she has a chance to get it done, possibly early. Wouldn't be surprised if this went all 15 though, and we just saw basically a striking affair that didn't really score well. So I'm kind of torn about how I'd like to play this, but I will definitely not be Xing Vidal out of my lineups, and I won't be Xing out Montserrat Rendon either, even though she is 34-year-old debutante, giving up 9 years of age, but she's going to be the taller fighter, same exact reach advantage. So this could be an interesting fight at women's bantamweight, but I think the DraftKings value lies on Vidal in this situation at 9K. Next up, we've got a strawweight battle between Mizuki at 9,200 taking on the OnlyFans fade of the week, Goldy at 7K.
I keep having to do wild stuff.
Mizuki has not fought since 2020, so it has been over 3 years since she lost to Amanda Lemos, beat Wu Yanan before that, and she is 9,200 this week. All of her stats are basically terrible. She scored 70 points in her win. She barely scores 3 points a minute, under 3 points a minute at distance and inside the distance respectively. Has never put up 100 points, controlled 72% of all grappling time she was involved in, did get knocked down in the Amanda Lemos fight, has a decent last 5 strength of schedule, but other than that, I don't see anything worth paying 9,200 for. And Goldy, as we can see, does not score well inside the distance. She is outpacing her opponents by over a point per minute, scoring less than 100 per win, but she's only giving up 85, almost 86 points per loss across 3 losses. She did give up 110 to Molly McCann.
Come on, everybody, group hug.
She gave up only 88 to Diana Belbita and 77 to Miranda Granger. So not thinking that Mizuki's going to score a ton here, and Goldy really does not have too many good stats, a few more than Mizuki does, as Goldy does control 71% of the grappling time, very comparable with what Mizuki has for grappling time. Average value per win, just 1 win. Goldy 12.66, was a first round finish, and she has been finished in the first round herself. So very interesting to see that at strawweight. Has been knocked down as well. So both women taking knockdowns in their career, and she does have a strength of schedule that is 11 points worse than Mizuki here. So I like Mizuki probably for cash. Really wouldn't touch this fight at all for GPPs, maybe no less than like 10-15% for the favorite, and maybe just a few points less than that for Goldy. As we learned with the M.O.N.K situation, you can never, and I've preached this before, but I'm just reminding you, you can never play 0% of any fighter. I think I said that with Alex Reyes and M.O.N.K last week. I was like, I'm not playing any of these guys at all. In cash, that's correct, but when it comes to GPPs, I never, and I really mean never, put anybody at 0%. If I'm fading someone, a full fade, I'll still have 5, maybe even 10% of them when it comes to like 150 entry tournaments. So can't really fade anyone at all when it comes to GPPs, but I don't have a problem fading Goldy here. As far as cash and Mizuki, don't really like her numbers for GPP. Low-level heavyweights in Muhammad Usman 8,400 taking on Jake Collier at 7,800.
You ordered Diet Coke, that's a joke, right?
I am not excited about this heavyweight fight, you guys. I guess I'm gonna be on the side of Usman, but I'm not happy about it. Neither guy scores even close to 90 points per win. Jake Collier is at 86.5, and Usman is under 82 in his 2 UFC wins so far. Their pacing, I guess Collier kind of takes it. Inside the distance, it's definitely Usman, scoring almost 3 points a minute, allowing less than half, while Jake Collier allows almost 4 points a minute inside the distance, and 94 points is what his opponents score per loss. He has put up 2 wins over 100 points out of his 5 UFC wins, controlling 54.5% of all grappling time he's involved in, and he's also $400 under his average salary this week. 1 round 1 finish win and 2 round 1 finish losses for Collier. He's knocking people down. He's getting knocked down. He's throwing up subs. Subs are being thrown up against him. There's a lot of things going on in Jake Collier fights, and most of those involve him completely crumbling. So my money's probably on Usman, I guess, but for DraftKings, like I said, I'm not excited. You have to pay almost $800 more than his average salary. He does have a very, very good power index, but his strength of schedule leaves a lot to be desired, as it is the lowest on the entire card at 54.67. He's beaten Junior Tafa, scored 79 points, and he beat Zach Paunga, scoring 85 points there. So not a ton of upside for Muhammad Usman, shown thus far in his UFC career. Controls 100% of all grappling time he's involved in, but other than that, there is absolutely nothing I like here. So I guess I'm going to take Usman, probably looking to fade this one a little bit, but there's always the chance that Collier just crumbles. I mean, you saw what happened to him in the Chris Barnett fight. He lost to Andre Arlovski, Martin Boudet, and Carlos Felipe. His only win in his last 5 is against Chase Sherman, who may or may not be better than Harry Hunsucker. We just don't know. So yeah, the pick's going to probably be Usman. I think he has the better DraftKings upside, but I would not be surprised if this went all 3 rounds and the winner scored 75 to 80 points. Here's one that I absolutely love for DraftKings, especially GPPs.
I never met a fight I didn't like.
We've got Jacob Malkoun, 9,500, most expensive fighter on the card this week, taking on Cody Brundage as a short notice replacement. Malkoun was supposed to fight 2 other guys before Brundage, and now Brundage is who we have settled on here. I love this fight, like I said, for DraftKings. Both guys scoring very well for the most part, especially in wins. Malkoun's overall pacing, almost 6 points a minute, allowing just 2. At distance, not so good, but inside the distance, scoring well over 6 a minute, allowing just 1, averaging 125 per win, and has the highest ceiling on the card with a 67-point floor. Not so bad at all. He is 2,000 more than his average salary, but he is averaging almost 16.5 value per win over 3 UFC wins. Very good strength of schedule and controls 90% of all grappling time he's involved in. Meanwhile, Cody Brundage not scoring anywhere close to what Malkoun is scoring, but his at distance pacing is the opposite of Malkoun. 3.5 points a minute, allowing less than 1, but Brundage does allow over 3.5 points a minute inside the distance, and we already covered that is where Malkoun shines. When Brundage loses, he allows 93 points. When he wins, 106 over his 2 UFC wins. Controls less than 24% of all grappling time he's involved in, but does have a 74% takedown defense, although he does allow 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. He is over $900 cheaper than his average salary with an average value of 13.5, so very good numbers there. Both of his wins have come in the very first round, and he has been finished in the first round himself. Power index is good, never been knocked down, throws up subs thrown against him, and last 5 strength of schedule, all very good. So I think whoever wins this fight scores very well, and I think Malkoun is the side I'm going to be on. Love the $9,500 salary, and Brundage is on a 3-fight skid, losing to Michael Oleksiejczuk, Rodolfo Vieira, and Cedric Dumas, and he looked absolutely terrible in that Cedric Dumas fight. He landed 3 strikes in 15 minutes. 3 strikes. 2 takedowns, controlled only 13% of all grappling time he was involved in, and Dumas basically did whatever he wanted to with him once Cody got tired, which happened after about 96 seconds. So yeah, give me Malkoun. Love the upside here. I will have a bit of Brundage, even at 6,700. Yes, it's the cursed salary, but could it possibly make the optimal lineup 2 weeks in a row?
Out of the fucking blue!
I mean, come on. The chances are slim to none there. So give me Jacob Malkoun. Love him for DraftKings. Love this fight overall, and I will have some of Brundage as well. Here we have Andre Fialho, 8,900, taking on Tim the Dirty Bird Means at 7,300. This one seems pretty straightforward to me for DraftKings. Andre Fialho is the welterweight Derek Lewis. He scores no points unless he lands a first round KO victory. That is the only time he does anything of note as far as DraftKings. It's the only time he pays off his salary, and it has not happened since Cameron Van Camp back in May of 2022. Since then, he's lost to Jake Matthews, Muslim Salikov, and Joaquin Buckley, getting KO TKO'd in all 3 of those fights. So scores well under 2 points a minute overall at distance and inside the distance. And like I said, his only chance at anything of note is to get a first round KO TKO over Tim Means. That's only happened once in Means' UFC career. He is a man that gets subbed more than anything, as he has been subbed 5 times in his UFC career. That is something Andre Fialho has basically no experience with. So I actually like Means here at 7,300. I think he has potential, even at 39 years old, to pull off something against Andre Fialho, especially if Fialho gasses out or is not able to get inside on Tim Means and start landing punches. Means also losing 3 in a row to Alex Morono, Max Griffin, and Kevin Holland. So I'm not exactly thinking he wins this fight, but as far as underdogs go, I think this is a solid DFS underdog play. Andre Fialho, like I said, not interested pretty much at all, except for the Derek Lewis type of finish, like I mentioned. So maybe about 20%, but I think I'll be under the field on Andre Fialho for the most part. I don't think Tim Means is necessarily going to win this fight, but I think his DraftKings upside could be a little bit better than Fialho if Fialho is not able to get it done in the first round. So meaning if Tim Means wins in a decision, he could score like 70, 80 points, but still kind of pay off his salary, while Fialho basically needs that round 1 finish to come anywhere close to paying off that 8,900. So while it is possible for Fialho to get the win in the first round, I'm thinking it gets out of the first round, and hopefully Means can take this to a greasy decision, win or lose, and hold Fialho to next to no points. So I'll be looking to fade a little bit of Fialho and maybe go a little bit over the field with Tim Means, but nothing crazy for this fight. Here we've got Dan Argueta, 8,600, taking on Miles Johns at 7,600. Let's start with Miles Johns. We are saving $1,100 on his usual salary of 8,733. Has a decent strength of schedule and a 92% takedown defense. Other than that, his stats are absolutely terrible, barely averaging 2 points a minute at distance. Inside the distance, it's even less than that, and only 72 points per win over his 4 UFC wins.
Where's the rest? Yeah, where's the rest?
He put up 55 against Vince Morales, 87 against Anderson Dos Santos, and 81 against the Angel of Death.
Wrong!
Actually, no, that's not the Angel of Death. I was thinking of Kevin Aguilar against Kevin Natividad. So yeah, do not like any part of Miles Johns' numbers here. Ceiling of less than 85. You never, ever want to see that. And his floor is very low as well at 13.6. Meanwhile, Dan Argueta, 1-1 in the UFC, but his numbers are fantastic, outpacing his opponents absolutely everywhere and averaging 4 points per minute overall. 101 is what he put up in his 1 UFC win. 60% takedown accuracy, landing 2.78 per minute, controlling 56.31% of all grappling time he is involved in. You do have to pay $1,000 more than his average salary, but he did get you 12x in his last win, 71.5 strength of schedule, and he's throwing up subs and getting subs thrown up on him. So he definitely has numbers that we want to target, especially at such a cheap price of $8,600. I'd love to have Dan Argueta in my lineup for the DraftKings upside. Again, do not like the upside of Miles Johns, and that's how we're going to look to play this one. I favored Argueta for the win, and again, I favor his DraftKings upside over Miles Johns this week.
I actually want to go to Haunted House more than I want to go to Aqua.
Next up, we have Charles Jourdain taking on Ricardo Ramos. 7,900 for Ramos, 8,300 for Jourdain. Jourdain is 5-5-1 in the UFC. Ramos 7-3, and all the DraftKings upside is going to lie with Charles Jourdain here. I love Ricardo Ramos. Love to see him win this fight. Inside the distance, he's scoring almost 6 points a minute, but overall, his 7 UFC wins, he is averaging just 83.6 points per win. did score 101 against Danny Chavez, only 98 against Algio, and 106 against Garagori. So lately he has been scoring pretty well. Just before his last 5, did not score well overall. So not really sure how he's going to score, but he has a ton of good numbers here. 77% takedown defense. His takedown accuracy, 62%. Don't know how I left that not green. Averaging 2.73 takedowns landed per 15 minutes. Controls 55% of all grappling time he's involved in. And you are saving $400 on his usual salary. A couple of round 1 finish wins and losses for Ricardo Ramos, and a very good strength of schedule at 77.02. Meanwhile, Charles Jourdain, 3.36 points per minute, under 3 at distance, allowing just 2.23. Inside the distance, scoring 3 points a minute, but allowing 4.57. Not something you want to see when you're facing Ricardo Ramos, who scores, like I said, 6 points per minute. Jourdain with the DraftKings upside per win here over Ramos at 102.5. Only a 49% takedown defense, and Charles does allow 2.18 takedowns per 15 minutes, controlling less than 44% of all grappling time he's involved in. Tons of power index and chin index for Charles Jourdain. A ton of subs thrown up and a few subs thrown up against him as well. Decent strength of schedule at 70. And yeah, I think
It doesn't matter what you think.
I think Ramos is going to be a bit tough to put away here, as is Charles Jourdain, so I do think this one goes to decision. The winner probably scores about 85 to 90 points, and I don't know if that's going to pay off either one of these very cheap salaries, 8,300 and 7,900. I think if no one gets a finish here, then I'm not really sure how this one's going to score. When Ramos beat Chavez, he finished him in the first round. When he beat Garagori, he finished him in the first round, scored triple digits in both of those. So I don't think that Charles Jourdain is probably going to get finished in the first round. He does have 5 UFC losses and has yet to lose in the first 5 minutes. So I tend to think this one goes long. It's probably going to be a fun fight. I just don't know how much I'm going to get to it for DraftKings this week, even though these two salaries are the closest line for all of UFC Vegas 79. Brian Battle, 8,700, taking on AJ Fletcher. Look at all of the red numbers for AJ Fletcher. His pacing is terrible, getting outscored from everywhere. His DraftKings points per win, another fighter under 90. Very low scoring fighters this week for UFC Vegas 79.
It does hurt, actually.
Takedown accuracy pretty good at 40%, landing 1.64 takedowns per 15 minutes, but his takedown defense is atrocious at 29%, allowing more than 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. You do save $633 on AJ Fletcher this week over his average salary, and his last 5 strength of schedule leaves a bit to be desired at 66. Meanwhile, Brian Battle, I love Brian Battle this week at $8,700. He put up 126 against Gabe Green, 127 against Takashi Sato.
Triples makes it safe. Now, triples is best. Yeah. That's good.
87 against Gore and 98 against Gilbert Urbina. The guy scores very well overall, and in AJ Fletcher's 2 losses, he is averaging 93 points given up. Brian Battle at distance scoring over 5 points a minute and averaging 110 points per win. Highest ceiling on the card, well, second highest ceiling on the card, I should say, at 127.5 points. 2 of his 4 wins have given him triple digits. You do have to pay $500 more than Brian Battle's average salary of $8,200. However, average value per win is 13.26. So you love to see that. That is a very good number, especially at 8,700. And it should be mentioned that 2 of Brian Battle's 4 UFC wins have come in the very first round. Actually, they both come in the very first minute. So he has gotten 2 quick win bonuses. You got to roster a guy with 2 quick win bonuses out of 4 wins. Tons of power, does get hit as well, throwing up subs, very good strength of schedule at 76. I love the upside of Brian Battle this week against all of the downsides of AJ Fletcher. So I will have a ton of Brian Battle in my lineups this week. I like him for cash as well, and AJ Fletcher I'll probably have a bit under the field, but still, as I mentioned earlier, we're not going 0 on anybody for GPP, so the pick is going to be Battle. Love him for DraftKings, cash, and GPP tournaments. Marina Rodriguez taking on Michelle Waterson-Gomez. Plainly put, this is a fight I will be avoiding this week. 9,300 for Rodriguez, 69 100 for Michelle Waterson. No one scores well at all. I mean, look at all the red numbers from Rodriguez. I'm not going to read all of them, but I mean, less than 84 points per win, basically 2 points a minute everywhere. Very low ceiling, under triple digits. No round 1 finish wins or losses. Decent strength of schedule, but other than that, there is nothing I like about Marina Rodriguez's numbers here. Michelle Waterson, other than being extremely tough and durable, her numbers leave a lot to be desired, scoring just 2.5 points per minute. At distance, it's under 2 points a minute, and inside the distance, it's basically even with her opponents. She also scores under 89 points per win. Takedown defense, very good at 73%, and she does control 50% of all grappling time she's involved in. You're also saving just over $200 on her average salary, and Waterson-Gomez has a decent strength of schedule as well. Guys, I don't have to spend a ton of time on this. Historically, neither of these women score well at all. It's plain as day. Rodriguez scored 61 against Yan Jianan, 88 against Dern, and 85 against Michelle Waterson-Gomez when she fought her back in 2021. Meanwhile, Waterson-Gomez, in her one win in her last 5, she beat Angela Hill, barely scored 100 points, both women allowing just 88, 89 points per loss. So not a fight I'm really looking forward to rostering, even at the very cheap price of $6,900. I just don't think Michelle Waterson probably gets it done. Rodriguez beat her back in 2021, like I said, and what is really going to change here? So give me Marina Rodriguez for the win, but like I said, this probably goes to decision. Both women scoring 80, 85 points in a win, and I'm really not looking forward to rostering this one at all, whether it be in cash or GPPs. If it is cash, I guess Marina Rodriguez, but I'm sure there's got to be better options with more upside at the $9,300 range. In the co-main event of the evening, we've got Bryce Drillbit Taylor Mitchell
Every day I wake up, I eat some coffee, grinds.
taking on Dan Ige. 7,400 for Ige, 8,800 for Bryce Mitchell. Let's start with Mitchell, averaging 3.8 points per minute, allowing just 2. At distance, he's basically keeping an even pace with his opponents at just under 2 points a minute. Inside the distance, doubling them up, 3.68, allowing just 1.86. His DraftKings points per win, however, is very subpar at just 91.35, and when he did lose, he gave up 100.94 points to Ilia Topuria in a second round submission. 117, almost 118 point ceiling, 50%, so 3 of his 6 UFC wins, he has accumulated 100 points or better. Lands 3.26 takedowns per 15 minutes, very impressive. Just a 33% takedown defense, but does control 73.5% of all grappling time he's involved in. You do have to pay up $750 more than Mitchell's average salary of $8,050, and that comes with an average value of 11 per win. Only one of his 6 UFC wins was a round 1 finish. Does have knockdown power, has been knocked down as well, and there are subs coming in and going out of Bryce Mitchell fights. Last 5 strength of schedule, a very respectable 72, and that's going to round it out for Bryce Mitchell. Has some pretty decent numbers. It's just that DraftKings points per win leaves a lot to be desired at just 91.5. Meanwhile, Dan Ige, pacing not so good because he is getting outpaced overall, 2.5 points a minute to 2.8. At distance, he is outpacing his opponents by 0.3 points a minute, but inside the distance, he is allowing more than 4 points a minute and scoring just 95 points per win over 9 UFC wins. In fact, his last UFC win against Nate Landwehr, he scored only 76.5. 4 of his 9 UFC wins have netted him 100 points or better, has just a 58% takedown defense, and controls only 36% of all the grappling time he's involved in. Both gentlemen have the same average salary since 2021, but in this case you are saving money with Dan Ige as his salary is $550 less than usual. Average value per win is 10.88, and 3 of his 9 wins have come in the very first round. Does have knockout power, has been knocked down as well, and probably the best strength of schedule on the entire card at 78.83. I love this co-main event as a fight, but for DraftKings, I'm just not seeing it. I honestly think this one goes all 3 rounds, and based on the DraftKings points per win numbers, I really don't want any part of Bryce Mitchell, and maybe I'll have a little bit of Dan Ige because we have seen Bryce Mitchell get dropped before, and we know Dan Ige has that power. So at 7,400, I'm willing to take a little bit of a dog shot on Ige as far as DraftKings goes. I'll probably avoid this one for cash overall, and I'll probably be under the field on Bryce Mitchell as well. Main event of the evening. Hit the like, hit the sub on the M.O.N.K channel as we are getting closer and closer to 600 subscribers. We have Rafael Fiziev, 8,500.
Rafael is cool, but rude. Give me a break.
Taking on Mateusz Gamrot at 7,700. Let's start with the underdog here. As you can see, almost every single stat is green, as Gamrot does perform extremely well for DraftKings, scoring 3.5 points a minute, allowing just 2. At distance is one of his only poor stats, as he's scoring just 1.5 points a minute, but inside the distance, he is scoring over 8 points a minute and allowing less than 1. Just barely over 100 points per win, and when he does lose, he's allowing only 61 points per loss. In fact, when he lost to Beneil Dariush, he only gave up 66 8.2 points. Decent ceiling of 108 and very respectable floor of 55.5 points. 3 of his 5 wins have gotten him over 100 points. He does land 4.5 takedowns per 15 minutes, which is an extra 20 points in a 3-round decision. Also has a 91% takedown defense and controls almost 90% of all grappling time he is involved in. $767 cheaper than his average salary, which is a huge savings for someone with this kind of DraftKings upside, and that comes with an average value of almost 12x per win. 1 of his 5 wins has come in the very first round, has knockdown power, has been knocked down as well, and has a very good 72.32 last 5 strength of schedule. Meanwhile, Rafael Fiziev, while extremely fun to watch, does not score well for DraftKings at all, not 3 points a minute anywhere, and DraftKings points per win is sub 80 at just 79.38.
So sad. So sad. So sad.
Has one of the lowest ceilings on the entire card, 94 points. Does have a decent takedown defense of 90% and controls almost 50% of all the grappling time he is involved in. Is also cheaper than his average salary by $350, but his average value per win is one of the worst on the entire card at 8.95. Fiziev, while being extremely fun to watch and having a fantastic beard, does not score well at all. In fact, 9x on average. Only 1 of his UFC wins has finished in the first round, and he himself was finished in the first round as well. Power index is 0.59, which is pretty good. No submissions thrown up in Fiziev fights, and has a better strength of schedule than Gamrot by 1.2 points. Again, I absolutely love this main event. I cannot wait to see it. I cannot wait to see who wins this fight. But as far as DraftKings go, there might be a big fade coming from me as far as the Fiziev side goes, but there is a ton of upside on Mateusz Gamrot at 7,700, and that's kind of how I'm going to look to play this one. Even if it goes to decision, I think Gamrot has a potential to score well, and Fiziev, while only scoring 80 points per win, may score better than that in a 5-round fight. That said, he did finish RDA in the 5th round and scored only 86 points, so again, not a guarantee, and I think most of the upside lies on Mateusz Gamrot. It's just going to come down to the fact of, can Gamrot land takedowns on Fiziev and his 90% takedown defense? That will definitely be put to the test, and I cannot wait to see what happens. But as far as rostering guys, I like Gamrot in the underdog spot at 7,700. Probably won't touch much of this for cash, maybe a little bit, but I do prefer Gamrot in GPPs, and I will have a bit of Fiziev to go with that as well. Before we get out of here, let's throw it over to Monk to find out what CM Monk's picks are for UFC Vegas 79. Thank you so much. Here are CM Monk's picks for UFC Vegas 79. Last week, CM Monk went 7 of 9. We did have 11 fights. 1 was a push and 1 was a no contest, so that brings it to 9. He did go 7 of 9. Overall for the year, bringing his average up to 60.66%. Meanwhile, I went 5 of 9. Terrible week, 55%, and that brings me down to 61.42% for the year. UFC Vegas 79 picks for CM Monk are as follows. Tamires Vidal by finish over Montserrat Rendon. Mizuki over Hannah Goldy by decision. Muhammad Usman by decision over Jake Collier in what I'm sure will be the heavyweight banger of the century. Jacob Malkoun beating Cody Brundage by decision. Tim Means underdog win over Andre Fialho by finish. Cannot wait to see that. Dan Argueta over Miles Johns by finish. Underdog Ricardo Ramos beating Charles Jourdain by decision. Brian Battle over AJ Fletcher by decision. Marina Rodriguez by decision over Michelle Waterson-Gomez. Bryce Mitchell beating Dan Ige by decision in the co-main event. And in the main event of the evening, underdog pick Mateusz Gamrot getting it done over Rafael Fiziev by decision. Those are CM Monk's picks for UFC Vegas 79. Before we get you out of here, let's throw it over to Monk and find out who the most owned, no nonsense Monk pick of the week is going to be for UFC Vegas 79. The Monk pick of the week, M.O.N.K, most owned, no nonsense for UFC Vegas 79. I hate to do it to you, but it's going to have to be the most expensive fighter on the card. 9,500 Jacob Malkoun this week, guys. It was extremely difficult for me to pick a fighter to go in this category this week. I do not like a lot of these fighters for cash, meaning I don't know who is going to wipe the floor with whom, but I think Jacob Malkoun has a decent chance taking on Cody Brundage on short notice. Brundage loves to give up points inside the distance, and if Jacob Malkoun can just avoid avoid getting caught in a guillotine. I think we should be good here for a few takedowns, a ton of control time, and hopefully well on our way to a 120-point win over Cody Brundage. So give me Jacob Malkoun and the tremendous DraftKings upside that comes with him at 9,500 this week. That's going to do it. Let's get you guys on out of here.
No, I'm honestly done. I don't want to read anymore.
We did it, everybody. Those are going to be the most pertinent stats to help you construct those GPP and cash lineups for UFC Vegas 79. We got some bangers. Fiziev and Gamrot is a fantastic main event. Mitchell and Ige in the co-main is fantastic as well. And I love a few of the prelim fights also. So guys, looking forward to the break next week for sure. Hopefully I'll have a few new stats for you. Maybe I'll reorganize some stuff in my spreadsheet, make it a little easier for me to give you the best stats that I can give you week to week. That's going to do it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And as usual, I want all of you to enjoy the fight. So enjoy, and we will see you in the next one.
I love this stuff. Only come here if you like that stuff.